No COVID restrictions here.
Hello and welcome to the Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, and we're on day 5, and I'm excited but a little sad because this is my last day with my good friend, Steve Kitts. Now, if you missed any of the previous programs, you can check them out at wjmm.com on the podcast page. Check the podcast tab and then look for Love and Lordship is the name of the ministry, even though the show is entitled The Authority of Love after our book. You can watch all of the Authority of Love messages on the Love and Lordship YouTube and Vimeo pages, as well as at loveandlordship/podbean.com. So you can find all those. As promised, today we're going to continue. We're going to wrap up this week with Steve and the importance of doing life together with other men. In this case, for growth and accountability in the Lord. I want to welcome Steve back, and we're going to jump right in, Steve. So thank you for joining me this last day. We are on Friday, so I'm sorry you have to go, but I look forward to what you have to say today. And I want you to pick up where we left off yesterday, talking about Man Challenge and how you got started and how it helped you, and now the upper room. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yesterday we talked about how a couple guys drugged me in begrudgingly
Yes.
early in the morning to a Man Challenge thing that was at our church at Southeast.
And thank God they did, right?
Right. And our group grew to be really big, and they kind of forced us to split. So Jim Sheehy, who we mentioned yesterday, asked me to take half of the group over. So both of those grew, and in the meantime, we were meeting at a place called Upper Room, which is where we are right now.
Yes.
And we've got 20 or 25 guys watching right here.
Yes.
But we started meeting once a month because we liked the intimacy of the upper room that we were in, just getting some guys together, and we wanted to kind of run our own agenda, do things a little bit different from Man Challenge. So that went on for a couple of years, and Doug Finnison is our host, and we kept talking about doing it every week, and we just kept talking about it. And about 3 years ago, he said, let's go, let's do it. So we started meeting every week with this group, and there's 25 or 30 guys here most weeks, and we do it every week,
And what is from Man Challenge to your small groups and then back to a larger group now with what you call the upper room? By the way, you said it, we are live today. This is something new for us, so if you hear some laugh or some crying or whatever in the background, you'll know what it is. But what is the purpose? What was the real purpose of Man Challenge, small group, and now upper room? What was the purpose of all that for you guys?
Intimacy and vulnerability. We have our motto here is.
Oh, men love that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Right. No, they do not. And that's really how I think the thing took off. Is Jim and I would get in front of the group and just be honest about who we were and what we were struggling with.
You didn't run them off?
No.
They're still
scared.
Right. It's good.
No, Jim was great about that. He cried half the time he was up here. He was just vulnerable. He would pour it out, and I think guys responded to that because deep down inside, I think we all want to be real.
Yeah.
We want to connect with each other and on a different level. And we kind of had a little motto we came up with here, like we talked about yesterday. That the three.
Yeah. Share that again. That was good.
Yeah, we talked about seeking or submitting, surrender, and seeking God.
Yeah.
Submitting to God, surrendering to His authority, and seeking Him. And here we picked up a motto from something we were studying called Connect, Challenge, Change. So we're trying to connect men. We're trying to challenge them to change, and of course God does the changing part.
Yeah.
But that's what we have. We like the 3 S's, the 3 C's, something
C's.
simple, right?
Next year we'll come up with a new one,
right?
But it's good. That's good. Well, I know we talked about the submit, surrender, and seek. And one of the things we mentioned yesterday, I want to share it again because it's scriptural and it's powerful, is we love to hear sermons from like Jeremiah 29:11. If I start saying that, if you don't know it already, you're going to know it. For I know the plans I have for you, the plans to prosper you and give you a hope and a future. And every one of us want to hear those messages. But we got to look at the next 2 verses, and I hardly ever hear a message on that, which speaks to what you were talking about. And they will pray to me, and I will hear them and answer them, and they will seek me and find me when they seek me with all their heart. Oh no, Pastor, stay on verse 11. I want the hope in the future. That's what we've built most of our churches on, unfortunately. But what really matters is, are we seeking Him with all our heart? And that fits into what you were talking about, and now the 3 C's. Share a little bit more about that, what that's done maybe in your life and some of the guys here in the upper room.
Well, like I said, we came over here because we wanted to go a little deeper. You know,
Yes.
Man Challenge was great. It was a great entry-level thing for where guys to come in and not feel intimidated. It's a little different to come in here. It's a smaller group, and somebody might get in your business or ask you a question. There might be some accountability, you know, things like that. So,
And we've already established that men love that, right?
Right.
Well, you said that, O.C. They laughed, but when you started doing it, people showed up, didn't they?
oh yeah,
We need
they-
it.
they-
We need it.
Everybody's drawn to realness.
Yeah,
Everybody's drawn to
authenticity.
that stuff. They want, yes,
Yes.
better word,
Right.
authenticity, and that's what draws everybody in here every week. And it's just a group of guys that they really love each other. I mean, it's weird to say as a man, you know. I didn't think I'd be 57 years old telling a bunch of guys that I didn't know 10 years ago that I love them, right? You know,
Yes.
that's just a family thing typically, but these guys really love each other, really committed to growing and learning. You know, almost every one of them I can think of that comes in and out of here. There's probably 50 guys that come in and out for various reasons. But they're committed to growth, they're committed to each other, and they're committed to making a difference in the community. That's the biggest thing. You know, it's I tell them all the time, you know, it's not the politicians that are going to solve our problems. It's not even the preachers. It's our job to get out and do this work, do the Lord's work, and make disciples and be disciples like we talked about earlier this week.
Share a little bit about, because I like where you're going there. Share a little bit about what some of the things that this group has done so they get an idea, but also what it's meant to you and some of these guys together each week. And you might pull a Jim Sheehy. We might see some tears here, but tell them what you've done in the community and what it means to you.
We've done some service projects and things
Right.
in the community, but really for me, it's about guys individually going out and making a difference. You know, they come in here, they get fed, and I know they go out there. I try to force these stories of generosity and things that they do and witnessing, and they're pulling other guys in. They're trying to come over to this group. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
You know, come see what we're doing. And I know it's made a huge difference. It's just one guy that goes out in the community and touches 10 or 12 lives in a month or a week or whatever. It's the way Jesus did it.
Well, and I keep
With
up
12
with you guys because I'm on your WhatsApp
Right.
group text and everything. And so I know that some of the things you've done is there might be a widow or somebody
Some
that's in
widows, yeah.
needs some furniture, needs moved, needs some items, or just needs some help. You guys
lot
have
of
done
that,
those kind of
yeah.
things, right?
Right.
And now I want to get serious about what it's meant to you, because we talked a little about that through the week, but this is one of the things that really, the Holy Spirit is our strength, right? But we're not made to do this alone. So you have to come in here every week, and you and Rick, and it used to be Jim and others, and stand up here and talk to these men about what it means to be real. What does that mean to you, and what has it done for you?
That's a huge responsibility that I take very seriously, and I try to look at my life and see if I'm living the way I'm talking to these guys about living. But for me, the biggest benefit is having to, we talked about this last night, having to prepare for this
Right.
every week. It's been a huge growth factor in my life because I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to study and prayer. So that forces me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't normally do,
Yeah.
you know.
Appreciate you being authentic there.
Right.
Right. But now here's the other thing. We talked about this a little bit as well. I asked you the other night, I've asked several pastors this before when I'm in groups of speaking with men or at churches, and I will say, apart from your preparation for your message, how much time are you spending in the Word and in prayer and with the Lord? And that's a tough question because oftentimes they say, well, that's where I get it. You did that as well. And I challenged you with that even last night, right? What are you doing apart from just preparing for a message here once a week to be with the Lord on a day-to-day basis? What's that look like for you?
It's up and down. you
Okay.
know. This
Yep.
summer we've had a lot of testimonies, so it's been
And
pretty
what's that
easy
mean
on,
to you? You said
been
that.
pretty
yeah.
easy on me to just kick back, and I'm like, another testimony. Okay, I can sleep in a little later. You know, I don't have to do all this work all week.
Right.
But it's been a good summer for us. We went over 10 Commandments, but for me personally, it's, you know,
I didn't
like
think
the-
we had 10 Commandments anymore. What's
Yeah.
that all about, man?
Well,
we got-
we know now.
Yeah.
We went through
yeah.
all of it. in
Jesus
detail.
actually summed them up in two, right? Covers all the 631 or 32 that's in the Old Testament, right? And that's part of what we were talking about. What you come here with these guys, you encourage one another, you challenge one another, you hold each other
Yeah.
accountable, which is all part of a word that we've talked about all week, discipleship. How's that helped, not only for these guys sitting out here today in the live audience, but for our listeners here? you've talked a lot about the process. Share a little bit more about that again and what the upper room helps you do in your process of discipleship.
Well, I want to go back to Jim Sheehy, who kind of
Yep.
started all this with God's inspiration, and he was a great shepherd. You know, he was really about discipling people, keeping track of everybody. He'd come to me and say, "Hey, what about this guy? We haven't seen him for a couple weeks."
Right.
So he really taught me a lot about that
Yeah.
process, and I can't remember the rest of the question.
That's okay. About discipleship, your personal discipleship, because
Yeah.
even though we have a personal discipleship, we need others around us. Again, encourage, challenge, hold accountable.
Yeah, the accountability piece is huge, and I think probably most of the guys I know personally, I've challenged them, they've challenged me, and I
Yeah.
openly ask for it. I think last week I asked them, I said, just check, if you see me out of line on something, hold me accountable. I want
Yeah.
to be accountable.
Yeah, and we're not talking about just areas of our life where we may slip. We're talking about the accountability to, are you in the Word every day?
Right.
Are you in prayer? Are you spending time with the Lord? Because we absolutely have to have that, and we don't tend to prioritize that. We
Right.
need people to help us do that, right?
Right, there's so much idolatry, is that what we were talking about
Yeah,
yesterday? And
yes.
compromise in our lives. We have these idols, work, it can be family, it can be lots of things
Yeah.
that we chase.
Interesting. We were talking last night after we finished our fourth session and we went to eat. You talked about idolatry and compromise, and I mentioned 3 or 4 things, and we were like, these are all good. Your marriage can be an idol. Your spouse can be an idol. Your kids and family can be an idol. The church can actually be an idol. Anything that takes the place of Jesus Christ as first in your life is actually an idol, no matter how good it is. Now, we obviously know that drugs and alcohol and sex and pornography are idols, but they're sinful idols. An idol is anything that takes the place of Jesus Christ as priority in your life, and we've got to see that. And I think, as I've been here several times, I see you guys trying to go back to that and say, where are you with the Lord?
Right, and we talked earlier this week about dying to self
Yes.
and that process, and that's where I think we got into the submit, surrender, and seek.
Wrap us up here, Jim Sheehy. I know his anniversary of his death is coming up.
2 weeks.
And or actually, when this airs, it may have just happened.
Right.
So tell just a little bit about that as we close this week.
Jim was like me. He was pretty wild, running the city. Just lots of these guys know him, and that's why they're here, because they knew him and he drew them in here. But about 12 years ago, he had a transformation experience with God, which not everybody has, but he had this on a beach in Florida, and he just flipped his life upside down overnight. I've never seen anybody so on fire, other than you, maybe. But he was all about it. I mean, he was
Yeah.
all about it. He
Yeah.
still inspires me
Yes.
every day. He still inspires me. Just a great guy. We lost him to COVID, August 25th.
At 56 years of age, right?
Last
Yeah.
year, right.
Yeah.
So I can't say enough about him and what he means to these guys and what he's done here and what he and God have built
Yeah.
in this place.
Yeah. A lot of these guys are here, as you said,
Right.
because of Jim Sheehy, right?
Right.
And that's what we ought to do. That's what we ought to do. Listeners, you ought to hear that. You can make an impact on one other person, and the Lord can multiply that. That's his plan in discipleship. So our listeners can reach Steve on social media. Search for him, Google him, and you'll find him all over the place. Next week, we're going to pick this back up. I'm going to have a few more messages from the Authority of Love. But Steve, I want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you
Thanks
guys
for
for
having me.
allowing us to do this in front of you. Appreciate that. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day, and God bless in Christ. This is Greg Williams, and you're listening to the Authority of Love.